Welcome back, Ninja community and persons who might have watched my quality statement and disclaimer video. If you haven't seen that already, you should probably go and check that out. Now in this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about some Ninja Bible study and a little bit of history. Now before I really get into any of it, I'm going to throw out some advice from my past experiences, at least within the dimension that I'm from. Okay, if you ever go to a museum of any kind, it's best not to even remotely look like you might be touching something like an artifact ever. Okay, it's a little bit different than just having the cops called on you because you look suspicious in the gift shop. Okay, if you touch or get close to a Triceratops skull, you're going to be stuck there for a few hours because, well, that's just from my experience. You might get stuck there for a few hours. Okay, so I'm going to, before I get into talking about some of the Ninja Bible study, I'm going to go over real quick over my quality statement and disclaimer, which is mostly over making sure that someone doesn't misuse any techniques that they might pick up from viewing my intellectual property here. Okay, so bear with me real quick. Okay, viewer understands my quality statement disclaimer video. Additionally agrees that this video could be treated as is with ballistic protection. That means, in short, I don't have a seal on it, therefore I don't guarantee the techniques under your application of the techniques. And if you're watching this video with the intention of using its content in committing a crime, that is additionally a crime. Actually using my content in committing a crime is also an additional crime. Okay, also this is my intellectual property that I'm allowing people to view. Okay, so I don't claim to be a historian. I am an ordained minister. Most ninjas typically become ordained so that we can do last rites. You don't want a bunch of ghosts running around because those are typically very difficult to ninja. Okay, so I'm ordained through the, from the universe that I'm from. I'm ordained through the Universal Life Church Monastery. Okay, let's see. I visited, not particularly a historian from the dimension that I'm from, have visited a lot of museums. Like I've been to Singer Castle, Bolt Castle. I've been to, I've walked on the Chickamauga battlefield. I've visited, I've seen the Edison bulb, like the original one, still burning for some reason. Not very well, but still burning. Let's see. I've walked up into the. Let's see. I've walked in the areas of the Hindu Kush, around the place where Alexander the Great spent his last days before he got ninja'd, I think. Let's see. Seen the Parthenon. You know, the one in Nashville, and I've seen at a distance the Parthenon, or the remnants of it. Let's see, I've even donated small items to smaller museums. I've walked in the final reservation of Geronimo, where he walked in the cell where he spent his final days. Let's see. Seen a good number of museums. Okay. There's even some places that if they come across artifacts, they put them on display because they can't lawfully sell it. Of course, if you watch my quality statement disclaimer video, you would know that I'm not giving any legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. Okay, so, but I am going to talk a little bit about some ninja Bible study, okay? And a little bit of the history, like how understanding history can give you more context of some biblical verses. Like one of my favorites that I covered in another video, feel free to check that one out. The Bible verse is, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." Okay, to a ninja who might understand history fairly decently and understand the application of what those words mean, it gives it more context. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the artifacts that I've seen within museums. One of the rods, right, is depicted, or the remnants of it, is basically just a chunk of metal, like almost a half chunk of metal that would have been wrapped around a stick, right? And which would have been, in my opinion, I suppose this is my intellectual property, the precursor to a mace. And a rod made in that fashion would qualify as a mace. Now, there are some things that like the mace has kind of evolved, as though it's evolved from a bludgeoning tool, like the hammer of that time, right? But it was also a form of measurement. Like it had to be like the modern equivalent of a hammer and a tape measure, because the rod was also a system of measurement of that time. Okay. And it was very likely, since it was carried just about everywhere by just about every man, it was very likely utilized as a weapon or self-defense tool, in my opinion. Okay, and it's probably a very effective thrown weapon, because it's pretty much the equivalent of a hammer, right? It's something that pretty much everybody had and was familiar with already, how to move in that manner. They didn't have to modify how they moved to utilize that item as a weapon. Okay, so like pretty much just a hammer, right? Okay, so you have the precursor to the mace, and the mace was the precursor to another weapon. Now this right here is a morning star, right? And for it to be a morning star, it had to be spiked, and it had to be a two-handed mace. So every morning star is a mace, but not every mace is a morning star, in my opinion. Just like in Asian cultures, every bokken, or wooden sword, is not a kendo stick, but every kendo stick is a bokken, or stick. Okay, so if you read the verse, the ninja Bible verse, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." Rod being basically a hammer, which was also the precursor to the mace. And if I needed a mace, I would probably improvise. First use as a ninja, I would first improvise. Since we're talking about Bible study, probably improvise. I probably wouldn't use the Bible as a weapon, like as a physical, weapon. I'd probably use like the table or chair that it's sitting on first, and it might provide me with about 4 improvised rods or maces, right? Maybe one of the legs might break off like a tonfa, right? Right, like a side handle baton. So, anyways, improvising with like a mace, which was the precursor to the very, very scary looking, highly effective bludgeoning and spiked weapon, right? Or you could say bludgeoning tool, because that would be what they all are. You could, hearing it again, you have the context of, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. And when you hear rod and you hear bludgeoning tool, like bludgeoning tool of God, it gives it more context. So, if you watch my videos so far, why not hit like hard like a ninja? I'll continue on with some more ninja Bible study and history. So, let's see. You have in other cultures, they utilized pretty much what every man had, right? With in their fighting arts, with the sai evolving from a farming tool. Every man pretty much had one, and a lot of them at some points was allowed to have them. And it's a very effective thrown weapon. Very effective. Okay? And when they were trained in battle, when the farmers were trained in battle, they were trained to utilize the movements that they already were accustomed to in order to facilitate them being effective fighters. Okay? Oh, let's see. Ninja Bible study. Now, there's... and history. Okay, so I imagine there's probably some effective ways to use the Bible as a melee weapon. Maybe if it was bigger. Maybe if they started actually making them hardbacked or something. Put some sharp edges on there. Or maybe just read it and figure out what it says, because I think it gives some pretty cool, effective strategy, especially in Old Testament, like, David versus Goliath, uses a tiny little rock to kill a giant, and that's pretty cool. Like, that's very ninja right there. Like, a weak spot, huh? Go right there, right? I think you mentioned something about how he carried 3 rocks with him, or some certain number of rocks with him that he picked from a river. It's been a while since I actually read that verse, that part of the Bible. But I do recall reading later on that Goliath had brothers. So it's like, one rock's good enough, or doesn't enough training. Let's get a few more rocks for his brothers. So, okay, so moving along with some history. Like, I've done a little bit of research, at least from the dimension I'm from, to try to figure out why I found a cannonball over in one area in northeast Alabama when I was very much younger. I didn't really pay much mind to, like, hey, I found a cannonball. It wasn't until, like, much later when I was trying to figure out what this was. And then I had to do a bunch of research, and I found out that through my research from the dimension I'm from, that during the Civil War, the area of, like, northeast Alabama seceded, like, several counties seceded from the Confederacy. They seceded from their state. They believed that if the state could secede from the Union, that the county could secede from the state. So they just told both sides that you come up in this area, we're just fighting you. One side tried it first, which was the North, and their soldiers didn't come back, so they didn't send any more because it wasn't a major conflict with their enemy. So the Confederacy tried it, and that's one of the main reasons, from my own conclusion, one of the main reasons why the Alabama wasn't particularly part of major North-South conflicts, because it was already torn apart and fighting itself in the midst of the Civil War. So literally, in that area, brother against brother fighting. So the cannonball, I did more research, and I found out that because the passageways around those areas in difficult terrain had basically forced the Confederacy to go up a more steep area in order to try to take ground. So they had to fight an uphill battle. They had to fight an uphill battle. That's pretty ninja. Let's see. So the cannonball. The implications that much conflict was going on just in that little area. Just in northeast Alabama. If you look at history, had that not have happened, the Battle of Chickamauga would have probably happened at a different location. And although the North took heavy losses at the Battle of Chickamauga, it is very likely that who knows how the war that war would have went, right? Who knows how that war would have went? Now the Native Americans, the Cherokee and Creek, and their mother tribe, which is like the tribe that they branched out from, they were involved in the Civil War as well. Okay, some things in history it's very difficult to try to erase. Like you have the Crowan Amendment, the original 13th Amendment, the Crowan Amendment. There was details of the Civil War that is very likely not going to be remembered, at least for a very long time, by a lot of people. Trying to erase history and give simple answers to complex situations is that's not how it really works. Okay? But in that area, they seceded. And they just told both sides, you come in this area, we're going to fight you, is what they said. The idea of going after an enemy or neutral to waste resources is, it took the South, it took the Confederacy, one of their generals, and over 700 men, from the stories that I've heard passed down, over 700 men were lost. And during the Civil War, that was actually a lot of people, a lot of soldiers. They lost 700 before they even got up the pass. 4 months just to make it up the pass. Lost 700 people along the way. Captured 3. And they weren't even Union soldiers. They wasted resources, going against their own strategy of trying to get the Union to expend its resources. It went against its own strategy and wasted resources against a neutral opponent. The North went around and confronted at Chickamauga. Of course, these are my opinions, I suppose. So, anyways, understanding some of the history gives you a little bit more meaning and context. So, now some of this will be in the ninja language, so it's going to be very difficult to try to articulate it with people who aren't exactly ninja, or people who are ninja-ish. So if you're not exactly ninja, I'll just, I suppose, try to do a different video. So if you liked my video, make sure you hit like. Hit dislike if you didn't like it. Subscribe to my channel to be alerted for when I do random videos on YouTube. And check me out on my Facebook under my artist name Mel, that's M-E-L-E-L. And I have an Instagram. I'm not exactly going to tell you exactly what it is. You just have to be ninja and go figure it out yourself. And let's see. What else do we have? You can share my video with people who are ninja, but not with people who ought to be ninja, because they might accidentally learn something. So until next time, stay ninja, my friends. Stay ninja.